Like I said, tech issues. What's up, everybody? Welcome to this very different presentation here on the Jeff Beacher Network. If you guys can't hear me, let me know as quickly as possible. Like I said, on top of the tech issues with internet, we're also having like equipment issues. I don't know what the hell's going on. I should have been testing this a lot sooner than I was, and I'm sorry. But we are here. It is Tuesday, March 23rd, 2021 at 6 o'clock Eastern. It's actually, believe it or not, the actual breaking of the news as far as outlets like CNN and whatnot is actually about an hour from now at 7 o'clock Eastern. But I already said I was going to do it at 6. I didn't realize when I planned this that I was going to be competing with NWA Power. So if you guys are watching NWA Power right now, go for it. Please support Billy, support the brand, and you guys can come back and watch me any other time. This is much more of an on-demand type. Okay to be on demand more so than I am usually. So that's totally fine if you guys want to do your thing. So, but I did want to mark this occasion because it is a huge, huge industry changing day. For everybody that's been a fan, this freaking camera won't stay either. It's just not my day, man. For anybody that's been a fan of wrestling of their lives and was a fan back then, I realize a lot of my audience tends to skew younger than 20, so they have no idea about this day other than what they've read in the history books or on the websites or whatever the case may be. But I did want to talk about it, and luckily I think I was able to do this without having to block my sound out. So let me just see. So on Friday morning, March 23rd, 2001, as I always did, got up to prepare to go to school and just kind of go about my day, and day went okay. And I come back home and I do my homework because I'm a good little senior student in high school. I was at that point anyway. I hadn't been prior. That's kind of why it was now. I hadn't been watching wrestling for a while. I was grounded due to my very, very poor grades in high school, mainly junior year. But all throughout junior and high school, that had been the punishment. If my grades slipped, I would lose my privileges to watch professional wrestling. It was interesting to see on a completely different source than I ever anticipated, CNN. Ironically, the people that owned WCW, Turner Broadcasting, AOL Time Warner, I went on CNN Money. Somebody called me and said, dude, you got to check this out. I said, okay, sure, I'll check it out. No problem. And it was just completely blew me away when I went to WWF.com and saw the graphic you guys saw at the top of the show. Not quite that, detail with the stuff on the top and bottom, but that's what I saw. I went to both websites, the company's website, and I came across, there it is. WWF purchases WCW. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe my eyes. And there it is. They buy rival WCW. It's at the news out in New York. And it got crazy. They now own the rights to the brand, the tape library, other properties. They're set to be the new home of WCW is WWF, but they're not going to air on TNT. And as you guys I'm sure are well aware by now, watching the documentaries over the years, that it would never get to air on TBS or TNT because the new CEO of Turner Broadcasting under AOL, Jamie Kellner, had said, I'm not going to air that on my networks. So it really became a very simple thing for the WWF to kind of swoop in and do what they did, because they had nobody there to say otherwise, right? So very weird time, very weird day in our fandom. Let's see. Can you hear me? So Josh is turning 24 in a little over a week. So he was not quite 4 when this sale went down. So I dare say you don't remember it. If you do, it's because of what you've been fed in history since then. I could be wrong. I have pretty good 4-year-old memory myself, but I know a lot of people do and a lot of people don't. So, and CJ is 33, so he was right there with me. Brandon says, Screaming Norman, smiling. WCW was great. Also, WCW Saturday Night Cactus Jack versus Vader, where Jack's nose broke. Yeah, by I don't know if it's on the network in its entirety at this point because the network's changing a big guy obviously, or even before that. But I do know that match from Saturday night where Foley gets his nose broken is in its entirety on the Mick Foley. I want to say it's Hard Knocks and Cheap Pops DVD, but that's not right. I think it's the one after that. JJ would know better than I would. He's good with the merch. And speaking of Jay, he is here. And again, Jay, I know I'm infringing on Renegade's reviews right now. Please do me a favor, plug that episode in your comments. I will gladly promote it for you because Lord knows I don't want to be a dick. Like I said, I am trying very hard to not overstep anybody else. I really want everybody to thrive like I hope I thrive. CJ, exactly. At first, I'm thinking, no way. But the fact that they used both logos, the fact that they had the news go out, it was just crazy that it would happen. And yes, Scott, the business has never been the same. And JJ puts it best here. Everybody talks about the day the music died with Buddy Holly and whatnot. This was the day that wrestling died because we can all admit it. Pro wrestling has not been the same since this day, and it hasn't. Excuse me. Yeah, it has not been the same over the last 20 years, especially in North America, but really everywhere because the WWF became the ultimate global power in wrestling. By the way, you can also check out JJ's review of Sinbad and the War of the Furies, starring John Morrison, aka John Nitro, aka Johnny Impact, aka Johnny Mundo, aka John Heinegan, over there right now on the Constantine Studio. So check him out. Either pause me and watch him, or watch him and whatever you want to do it. Check him out today, by all means. Josh, it's interesting that the news broke on a Friday, but many stars didn't find out what was happening until Monday. Yeah, well, you gotta remember, WCW, especially the roster themselves, have been so swerved for so many years by Bischoff, by the Bookers, by Russo, by everybody else that they never knew from one minute to the next if they were being bullshitted or if it was the legitimate thing. And it's really sad. And really, when you think about that stat in your head, you think about the fact that your employees, your talent, could not trust you from one minute to the next. That's not a good environment to work in. I think we all can agree, those of us that have especially been in retail, and are in retail right now, God bless you guys, by the way. We can all agree that if your boss can't trust you, or you can't trust your boss for basic simple stuff, you're not going to want to work very hard for that person or those people. So yeah, it's crazy. Big G with $5 super chat. I will follow up with that right now. Imagine if WCW bought WWE. Yeah, and then CJ with follow up. I think the biggest what if what if Bischoff and his people had bought WCW? Yeah, I mean, you saw it. I didn't really let it pause very well during the little video thing there, but FusionNet Media Ventures had actually entered an agreement with AOL Time Warner to purchase the company, and Eric Bischoff was slated to be the new president of WCW once again. It was going to be a thing. And then, as I stated earlier, Jamie Kellner took over the day-to-day of Turner Broadcasting from whoever the hell's in charge of Turner Broadcasting at the time. I don't think it was Ted directly at that point. But AOL Time Warner had appointed Jamie Kellner the new CEO of Turner, and he looked at the books and he says, this ain't working. And he cut both shows, Nitro and Thunder, completely off the air. And as Bischoff so famously stated many times, without that television rights deal, WCW was worth $20. I mean, that's maybe an exaggeration on Eric's part, but Think about how worthless a wrestling company is, especially now, without some sort of viable long-term television agreement. You talk about ECW not too long before this. Couldn't grab a TV deal to spank their own ass with. They went under as well. Granted, WWE didn't purchase their assets until 2 years later, but point is, within a very, very minute amount of time, you had no zero competition, zero people biting at Vince's ankles. And it's been that way ever since. Also, another cheap plug. Thank you, G, for reminding me. The latest episode of Gridiron and Grapple was today at 4:00 Eastern. I'm sorry I couldn't be there, G. As I said, tech issues. It's just been it's been a damn nightmare all friggin' day here, guys. I'm not even gonna lie. So there is that. Gridiron and Grapple is over at Big G's channel, which you can find right there. So there's that. He has a great 1 hour show. I always find myself entertained watching G's show. So check him out today. And Josh makes a good point. Ironically enough, the architects of the WCW juggernaut is into the Hall of Fame this year, Eric Bischoff. And lest we forget, last year's inductees that are going in this year, the NWO. I again, this is me, trying not to be an overly overzealous Hulkamaniac or whatever, but I really think that if the NWO had not been conceptualized and executed, we wouldn't be even talking about this. It wouldn't have been much of a war. And again, that's just how I feel. Yes, Nitro was doing well. Yes, Nitro was beating Raw in the ratings sometimes, but you figure the point of time, the amount of time, the point in time, I should say, where WCW was beating the WWF every single week, June 96 to April 98. Think about that for a minute. June 96 was the Great American Bash when Scott and Kevin attacked Eric and threw him off the stage with a powerbomb. April 98, the NWO is starting to splinter vastly. There's the huge divide between Randy and Hulk, or Hollywood rather. And by the end of April, there is a significant divide in the NWO with the soon-to-be Wolfpack and NWO Hollywood. So think about it. The NWO is rising, the WWF is losing. The NWO is crumbling, the WWF takes over the ratings war. Again, I don't have to blow that smoke up anybody's ass with the NWO is concerned. I'm just telling you sheer numbers and sheer facts. So without the NWO, there would have been no Monday Night War. So anyway, Josh says, I do not envy the position that Shane had being the one to go in and deliver the news, then wanting to get out the heck. Yeah, as much bravado as Shane has shown, I would not have wanted to been him during that Monday night. Going down to Panama City, having to tell every single person with a WCW label on their back that, hey, you have a good run, have a good career, but we don't need you, or we might need you, or be available because we're going to bring your contract over, or whatever. That had to be one of the most nerve-wracking nights in the history of wrestling, for anybody involved. Just crazy. And yes, CJ, you're right. I do know that Ted really didn't have any major say in WCW. The Braves, I'm not sure, because I think the Braves were more his baby than WCW was. I could be wrong there. You're a Braves fan. You know more than I do. But I don't know when Ted lost the hold over the Braves either. So either way, there was no there was no going back. I mean, really. CJ says, one thing I really remember about the night is the night idiot fans that cheered when Vince said WCW is dead. It's like, yeah, it's so funny, CJ. And JJ can vouch for this. He's been a roommate of mine. He knows. I think I was one of the very few people by the time it happened that was rooting for the Alliance to defeat the WWF at the Survivor Series. And I knew it was stupid to think that way. And I knew in my heart that Vince would never let that happen. But I had to hope, I had to believe that maybe this would go somewhere. And instead, they buried it like they do everything else. And then when they realized they needed competition to motivate their own asses, brand extension, Raw versus SmackDown. And again, wasn't the worst idea, but it didn't really hold out long term like I thought it would. So Brandon says, when I watch that 90s wrestling on the network, I prefer WCW over a lot of the generation. You know what? I really do too. It's too it's really, again, it's really unfortunate that people don't the classic saying, you don't know what you got till it's gone. WCW was one of those properties. You really didn't know what you had till it's gone. And we sit here now 20 years later and we lament the state of the WWE and how predictable it is and how out of touch Vince is. And it's like, if WCW had survived, who knows? Who knows? Josh says, first of all, he says, on Table for Three, they said none of the talent knew, but I saw something a few years ago that some of the big names knew before. Yeah. I mean, you got to remember, Dallas got that promo, so he knew. I guarantee the NWO knew. I guarantee they knew. Hogan, Hall, Nash, I know they knew. Well, at least Hogan and Nash. Scott was kind of off in his own little world there. But I know for a fact that the guys, Flair, Sting, knew. Although Flair was made to wrestle and didn't know he was going to wrestle that night, so there's also that. Um, Josh also says to CJ, just like Tony Khan only has power of the purse as long as his daddy lets him keep playing with his life. Well, again, I'm not here to criticize Tony. That's not why I'm doing this today, but I understand what you guys are saying. So JJ says the NWO, Hogan versus Sting, the build up the match, absolutely. And the rise of Goldberg. That is what made WCW win the war, in my opinion, during that time. All NWO Splinter, Goldberg losing the title / finger poke of doom was the beginning. Yes. And again, I caught flack for this the other day on the no DQ review, and I'll probably catch flack for it now. But the real demise of WCW really started half a year before the finger poke in Georgia, because Eric had not a ton autonomy, but definitely had more control over the brand than he would ultimately have when he was asked to leave. And there were a lot of people inside Turner that, for whatever reason, didn't want to seem to have WCW be a viable, successful entity. So, they get these standards and practices, and everybody else, these suits. Just, well, here's how you're going to do things now, and it's like, well, wait a minute, this has been working fine. Yeah, we've had a hiccup here and there the last few months, but just terrible. Just it was never, WCW was never thought of by Turner Broadcasting, AOL Time Warner, the guys in the suits in the South Tower, as really anything more than a hobby of Ted Turner's. And that's the fact that this hobby defeated the WWF on every uh, stat-worthy point for over 2 years. If you think about the other besides the ratings, it should have been way better than it was. Like I said, Brian says WWF dropped the ball on DDP. In my opinion, they made him a creeper stalker on Taker's What? Yeah, we've talked about that ad nauseum, as far as him creeping on Kimberly, creeping on Sarah when he had a much hotter, much more attractive wife than people remembered in Kimberly. So that was ridiculous. Rob says, don't you think they had too much talent in 2001, so they had to end the invasion angle quickly? Too many cooks spoiled the soup. We talked about that on the review last week. There are too many cooks in the kitchen now. There were too many cooks in the kitchen in 2001. However, Rob, if they'd have gone through with their plans, which was to keep WCW separate from the WWF on all fronts, you have one company full of talent, the other company full of talent, running different schedules, running different markets, running different arenas every week. That's the difference. Right now, you've got especially now with this pandemic, it's terrible, but right now, everybody's on the same roof. They're all breathing the same air. They're all doing the same thing. So it's very much, there's too many people trying to do the same thing with different recipes. Very good point, but I counter with what I said. Josh says, I think that's how people in suits view Impact, ROH, and AW now. WB has too much power and influence to ever go away. Yes, right. I firmly believe in my heart of hearts that no company will ever give Vince the true sweat under his belt loops, if you will, to worry about things. So I don't think there was too much talent. They had the wrong talent due to the guarantee. Exactly. Guaranteed contracts, too much money involved, too many people, okay with staying home and being lazy and not going to work, but getting paid anyway. That was a huge part of the company's issues. No question, Jay. Josh says Triple H, despite Vince losing faith in him, apparently won't let the ship sink. Neither will Shane. WWE is still making record profits each quarter. Making record profits is a relative term, or yeah, it's relative because they're not making the money they should be making, or they could be making, but they are making money. Brandon says they should have done the invasion angle in 02 when they had Goldberg. That's the whole thing, Brandon. They didn't have those guys in 01, and they didn't exercise enough patience to do it in 02 and 03 with the NWO, with Goldberg or whatever. They didn't want to pay the guys the amount of their guaranteed AOL checks, but the guys also didn't want to take, a 50% buyout. There's a lot of back and forth there as far as who wanted to do what, who wanted to work for what, who didn't want to work for what. So I just found it very funny, and we've talked about this before over the years, that every single major player that made WCW what it was the last 3-4 years of existence ended up in the company. Booker T, Scott Steiner, the NWO, Goldberg, Dallas, all those guys ended up jumping ship anyway. So is it really necessary to completely hotshot and destroy the angle within 8 months? Or do you carry it to WrestleMania? Do you carry it to later than that? Because think about it, WrestleMania next year, the NWO was available. They were off contract. They could have been signed then, and they were. Imagine an NWO versus, let's just say, okay, figure Flair signed by then, right? They probably could have got Sting to give and Goldberg. Flair, Sting, and Goldberg against the NWO on a WWF WrestleMania, No Way Out, whatever the case would have been. There's your money, kids. And again, I this is the burden and the blessing of hindsight 20 years later, right? But if they had just exercised patience, they being the WWF, it could have been so much better. Josh says Triple H has even said TV ratings don't matter much anymore. Plus, we only look at USA ratings, and overseas ratings are through the roof, with, I believe, India bringing in 6.0. Yeah. It's been said many times by many outlets, including Eric Bischoff's podcast. That, the ratings are what they are now, and despite our need to over worry about the ratings, internally they don't give a shit. They really don't. Because they know that no matter what they do, at least apparently, they're going to score big on Mondays with what they feel is right. Same with their deal on SmackDown, and NXT losing to AEW is not, making Vince, hurt in his wallet or in his heart. Rob says, was watching the WCW Shockmaster debut. Did WWE ever have a failure near that bad? The gobbledygooker. That thing was so hyped and so overdone and such a complete colossal waste of friggin' time. And no disrespect to Hector, but yeah, it was bad. Not Shockmaster bad, but close. And I need him at the country. Yeah, I got you, Josh. No worries. All right. So I had planned actually to have a panel on this, and I made the mistake of not contacting people, so that was my fault. So what I will do is this: I will go ahead and run the trailer that I tried to run earlier, but I had technical issues, and then we'll come back and plug every little damn thing. Josh says, just think if Shane would have gotten to run WCW as his own company like he originally wanted ECW and UFC. Yeah, Shane kind of got the short end of the stick here on most of his wants. Anyway, check these trailers out. We'll be right back.
a dream last night that I had a DeLorean time machine. I was at some exotic locale and it looked incredible. I had the hat, the jacket, the hoverboard. But then I woke up.
There you go. That's everything that's going on this week. All right, so comments really quick here. Here we go. Let's see here. Yeah, I concur with CJ that this is not correct. They aired Nitro that night. I know because there was a full TV production of it, and I was able to garner it off of the network and everything. But I do remember both shows airing that night. So, no, the answer to that is no. That is not correct. Big Show in AEW. We talked about that last week on the show. I'm glad for him. I hope he does well. And there you go. Brandon says it's funny. My coworker who said he quit watching wrestling after WCW died got excited for AEW on TNT because he thought he was going to watch WCW. He wasn't happy with AEW, so he quit again. Jeez, that's crazy. Josh says just got the wrestling is real. Politics are a work shirt. Greg shirt. Awesome. Good to hear. We love that. TJ, another big what if Vincent accepted Eric's challenge to wrestle him in a shoot match. Eric would have kicked Vince's butt as far as his overall skills. Vince can throw an ugly punch, but he has the your average athletic ability of a three-toed sloth. So that's his own admission, by the way. So yeah, it wouldn't have been a fight. It would have been a one-sided ass open from Bischoff onto Vince. So all right, guys, that's it for me. Again, if you are finished with me now, go ahead and head over to the Constantine Studios and watch JJ's Renegades reviews. And also, don't forget on Fight TV today and across wherever you can watch your shows, the return of NWA Power. So excited NWA is coming back. I can't wait to see what happens today on the show. So, for everybody at the Juggernaut Network, we appreciate you watching today. We appreciate the super chats, Big G. Thank you very much. And we will catch you guys next time right here tomorrow for wrestling. For the Greg Cherry Show, starring Greg Cherry and myself. We'll be talking about the Wrestling Trivia Challenge, weird state laws as we always do, the Wednesday Q&A, and what's coming up Thursday and Friday on Wrestling Rewind. Until then, we will see you guys next time.